So, the new Destiny DLC was released the other day, and I played it with my friend, who is much better at the game than me. He said we should play the campaign on the Legendary difficulty, which, for anyone who does not know, is the hardest difficulty. I've been playing Destiny since 2015, but that doesn't mean I'm good literally at all. Also, you're hearing a voiceover on top of the B-roll because I'm a bad YouTuber, and I didn't know I wasn't recording my friend's voice for literally the entire playthrough, so it sounds like I'm schizophrenic just laughing at myself. Also, obviously this video will spoil pretty much everything in the campaign, and while there are certainly issues, it is still something worth experiencing for yourself. Now, with that all out of the way, let's get into it. The first mission starts off with us sneaking onto one of the Cabal ships heading toward Neptune to try to find the Veil. What is the Veil? Good question. Anyways, we sneak onto the ship and crawl through the vents. I have in parentheses here the words sus, all caps, so that's worth noting, I guess, and fight Cabal and just general Destiny stuff. This opening mission was pretty good. It introduced the backpack things that drop when you kill certain Cabal and give the surrounding enemies an overshield. It also introduced a new enemy called the Tormentor. For the most part during this campaign, they really weren't all that impressive, except for a few scenes where they were pretty much just super duper boss fights. Most of the time they were just kind of annoying, but there were a few scenes, like I said, they were genuinely intimidating. But this first one was kind of a pushover because it was just the first one to introduce you to the enemy type. Once you get through the ship, there's a small section where you're in a Cabal drop pod to get down to Neptune, and you get your first introduction to Strand. Get used to these little sections because they literally happen throughout the entire campaign, which gets old kind of fast. You have it for like 5 minutes and lose it again for the rest of the mission, until the campaign is completely over. With the end of the first mission, I'd like to get into some issues I have with the campaign. A lot of people are unhappy with the campaign because its story is not really well explained. The witness touches the traveler and says, "Oh shit, Callus, go to Neptune." We get a few little bits about the Veil, like that it's apparently what powers the city of Neomuna. I think I remember that. Also, we don't really get a lot of time to make much of a connection with the new characters, the Cloudstriders, which there's only 2 of in the entire city. And there's no civilians in the city either, which is interesting because they're like in the Matrix basically, but that's a whole other thing. But that lack of connection with the new characters means it doesn't really matter when one of them just dies. The new exotic machine gun quest does dive a little deeper into the fallen Cloudstrider's character and about the Veil, because apparently the Black Heart from the vanilla Destiny 1 campaign was an attempt to replicate it before we blew it up, of course. But there's not much of a deeper explanation than that. But yeah, and the fact that it was done outside of the main story is an interesting choice to say the least. The sections with Strand also seemed to be sort of forced into the story, which felt kind of awkward at first. I remember hearing somewhere that Strand was supposed to release back in Witch Queen, which I think might be why it feels so shoehorned here in Lightfall. Also, it doesn't seem to be really tied as much to the darkness as Stasis was. We kind of look inside a bunch of neon green strings instead of quote-unquote communing with the darkness, which felt a lot more sinister or dangerous. Now I get that since Beyond Light, when we first started using the darkness, we've come to realize it's just a tool, neither good or bad. It just depends on the user's actions, but there seemed to be sort of a disconnect between how Strand is portrayed versus how Stasis was portrayed. Now, there was a scene that was sort of funny with Strand that I think was supposed to be comedic relief. That was sort of like an 80s action training montage where Osiris keeps trying to teach us Strand, but we keep messing up and disintegrating ourselves. And that was kind of funny, but it was supposed to be like while we're in this race against time to keep Callus from like getting his hands on the Veil and doing something with it, I guess. So that was sort of weird. I guess that explains how we were taught Strand, but I don't know, it's just sort of strange. Now, there is one mission that can screw right off into deep space or whatever, and that is called Headlong, and it's like the Strand obstacle course. The obstacle course itself is fine, but the final room, like the boss room, is pain incarnate. It's just a square with a pole in the middle, and there's one of those like kill barriers just constantly rotating around the pole. And so you're constantly on the move, and everything, on legendary difficulty at least, everything is hurting all the time. The only way that me and my friend could do it is by me not even picking up Strand and using the Well of Radiance. And every time I used Well of Radiance, we'd have to run around and go back behind the barrier, and it was pain. It was pain. Not to even mention that we had an issue with the hitbox of that kill barrier, so every time we'd get like within 5 feet of it, our health would just evaporate. So I don't know what the hell that was, but like I said, that whole room was just pain. Now that all my complaints are out of the way, I will start talking about the things that this DLC did very well in my opinion. To start, the abilities of Strand are fantastic. I main Warlock, and the Threadlings, the little like piranha green guys, are awesome. They're amazing. Grappling is also extremely fun. I'm currently using a build that involves the new exotic boots for Warlocks, the Swarmer, or Swarmers or something. So I essentially have an army of little green minions to do all the work for me. It's fantastic. It's awesome. Also, the super for Warlock, there were a few times where I was stuck in Strand instead of having it taken away from me, and it was the only thing that got us past a few bosses. We just deleted their health bars. It was crazy. Also, the design of the city of Neomuna is also something that was fantastic. Lots of route for sparrows, lots of little secrets, fun lost sectors, and there's one area with a big red dome-shaped thing, and inside's like a futuristic windmill, I think. And if you grapple it in just the right spot, you can just reach light speed for like 10 seconds. And you can follow that up with a grapple melee, which feels like Titanfall 2. It's fantastic. Oh my god, the Strand abilities are just awesome. We also got to see a lot more screen time of the Witness, and Bungie truly made them intimidating, but still just as mysterious, because after the ending, they just kind of disappeared into the portal that they made into the side of the dead Traveler, which, that's a whole other can of worms that I'll let someone else like Bife get into. The Ghost mentions you can't feel the Traveler anymore, which is very scary. We can still use light from some other source. I'm assuming it's the Veil. I've heard people online say the Veil is basically the heart of the Traveler, which was like hidden away. Anyways, all in all, this DLC was really not as bad as a lot of people originally said. There are absolutely some frustrating or disappointing parts, but after taking everything into consideration, it was pretty good. The gameplay was amazing, the environments were fantastic, the story was interesting for the most part, but definitely had some confusing and downright missing elements. But everything together wasn't bad by any means. With that, we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. This is my first scripted video. It's my first ever review of a game, and this is a game that means a lot to me. I've been playing it for almost 10 years now. And I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It really helps me out. And we'll probably get back to regular Call of Duty and stuff videos soon, but expect Destiny videos to be somewhere in the mix too. Alright, and goodbye.